Hey, it's Hersh, and welcome back to my channel. Today, oh, come on. What the? Okay, fine. OC lore it is then. By the way, if you're new here, I have an OC universe called Shard where I've been publishing videos about it on my YouTube channel for like the past year or two maybe, and you guys have been hounding me for OC content. So here it is, the entire story of Shard, I guess, in a single video. So let's get into it. So for a quick synopsis, this story follows my OC Maya, who is in the magical world where everyone is either a light or shadow manipulator, otherwise dubbed an aura manipulator. Guys, this was literally before aura became a meme. That's how you know how long ago I made this entire thing. But it's based on this glowing gem in the back of their neck. However, Maya goes through a bunch of traumatic stuff. You get 5 big booms! And that is the reason for her shard being dormant, aka it doesn't really work that well because it's super suppressed. So she goes to Nexus Academy with our other main characters. Originally, this was meant to be a silly slice of life fic that spiraled into a literal war fantasy with torture and angst and death. So you can really see how much better my life has gone since I started writing this. Jokes. So starting off, the story takes place in Illumina, a continent which is split into 3 other major kingdoms of sorts, which your girl has not named, by the way, because I gaff about naming places. Like, I literally can't. Characters are hard enough. So for now, we're just going to refer to them as the capital of light, the capital of shadow, and Etoile. 6 years of French went into that name, by the way. You're welcome. So fun fact, a lot of my characters' names or like last names are direct French translations because I'm basic AF, and this was actually when I was invested in school, and I actually thought, oh my god, it'd be so cool if they were from a different language. The story takes place in Etoile because that's where Nexus Academy is, but the characters come from a lot of different places, but we'll get into that. Nexus isn't actually like prestigious, but it's the only school that offers education for both types of aura manipulators, so it's more unique if anything. Also, it is government run, so all the staff are people who have retired from important government positions or like part-time workers who are still part of the government in the hierarchy. For example, my OC is Bernadette and Lynx, who you can check out in this video in the icon. And also, Etoile is where the royal family resides. It's where the palace is and everything. And to get into a bit about the royals, because I haven't really touched upon that a lot on any of my videos. So the defining trait about the royals is that they're super secretive and literally have not touched grass in decades. Super mysterious vibes, but from occasional sightings, we know that their entire bloodline is known to have like people with platinum blonde hair, and like that's a dominant allele on the Punnett score or whatever. Can you tell the AP bio brain rot is getting to me? And also arranged marriages are like very common just to ensure that certain hereditary traits get passed along. And I know, you must be sitting in your room asking yourself, well, Hershey, tell us about the governing system in Etoile. Just pretend, okay? But basically, the royals are the keystone of Etoile, and over the years they have amassed a council who each have their own sort of branch, and they create the government, though according to rumors the royals are just puppets while the council manipulates them. Whoa, wait, who said that? So for a bit of a crash course on the magic system that's taught in Illumina, so there are light manipulators and shadow manipulators, and each manipulator has different strengths and weaknesses that depend on their own life circumstances and preferences. Like, it's kind of similar to being like maths and science smart over being like history and English smart. Like, it depends. There isn't really any formula or like rhyme or reason for this. It's just the way things are. And also there are 4 types of manipulation courses offered at Nexus and most schools. So there's combatives who attack, defensives who, well, guess what, they defend, illusionists, and healers. It's all very self-explanatory. And there also are some basic skills like shadow and light travel, and more advanced skills like creating a shadow realm to store stuff in, or like turning invisibles for light manipulators. There's a lot of possibilities when you can manipulate photons or the lack thereof. And yeah, so thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and let's start for the actual timeline. Jokes. You really thought we were gonna start with the main plot, didn't you? Nope, you really thought. We have to go through the entire decades of struggle to get to where we are in the main story. So like 22-ish years ago, the heir from this kingdom in Etoile ran away after her elder brother was also killed in a border skirmish, leaving their frail younger sister, the 3rd child, to usurp the throne. However, 22 years ago was also when everything went wrong. Mysteriously, battles between the 3 kingdoms drastically increased. Violence became more apparent, and people began to manifest as combative manipulators a lot more, when before there was kind of a balance between all 4 categories that I mentioned earlier. Also, flash forward to 6 years, Maya and Kai are born in the capital of Shadow to their loving parents, Mr. and Mrs. Hart, who live a pretty secluded life, which meant that these 2 babies didn't really interact much with people before they started grade school. From their perspective, much of their childhood is a blur that they attribute to how most kids have like hazy memories of their childhood, but some spots are a bit weird, and they have memory blanks that they seemingly can never reach. Very intriguing. They also enter grade school, but they haven't manifested yet, so they get bullied because children, being the gremlins that they are, don't know when to shut up, and they just bully them for it because they see someone that's different from them. However, while this is happening, Maya ends up stumbling upon a deserted facility where she meets our other semi-main character and protagonist, Ace. Yes, many of you guessed from my shorts that they did meet as kids, so I'm hoping this isn't a terrible spoiler. It gets worse, trust me. But anyway, they form a begrudging friendship, and where Maya literally just pesters Ace until he says, okay, you can spend time with me. Ace came from poverty and an abusive dad, while his mom was the only one person who like really cared for him. Or so he thinks, until he was sold to the government for dun-dun-dun secret human experimentation on their shards. So in this facility, Ace is one of the very few people out of the hundreds that were brought here who actually survives, and when he meets Maya, it's like he's finally allowed to be happy again, until his moron of a roommate, Theodore, tattles to the scientist of what's happening. To give a background, Ace is always receiving high results in the tests, so young, naive Theo thinks that if he tattles, it'll make him the new favorite instead of Ace and give him all the privileges and things that he wants. But instead, it just makes Ace hate him, and he realizes that he was in the wrong, so he gets a mini redemption arc because, you know, sweet stuff. Theo tries to help Ace meet with Maya again, but this time the scientists think that it's him who's the real culprit, who is framing darling prodigy child Ace, so they basically kill him, which sends Ace into a spiral since he blames himself for that. Oh, you thought that was bad? It gets so much worse when the scientists decide to run one last little experiment on our homeboy, this time manipulating his memories through shadow puppetry, which is a super advanced and underground skill that shadow manipulators have that no one really practices because it's like hella dangerous for both the victim and the controller. And basically it involves controlling a victim through their shard, which is connected to their lifeline, kind of similar to like the Imperious Curse in Harry Potter. Mini background story, it was banned centuries ago because of some dude accidentally killing this other shadow manipulator, in turn starting a mini war between the capital of light and shadow, and wow, that definitely can't be super important to the plot later on, right? Anyways, back to where we are. They basically implant memories of Ace killing Maya, which sends him into a spiral and causes him to lose control and torch the whole facility to the ground. But because he's a kid and he can't really take the blame, he subconsciously creates an alter ego who he despises for doing this. While Ace is going through that whole mess of a situation, Maya and Kai finally snap one day when they're getting bullied, or more specifically Maya because of Kai, and she unleashes a strong surge of something. It wasn't an identifiable manipulation ability as far as anyone could detect. That's suspicious. And then their dad dies. RIP, bro. He's a goat. You won't know why because that's a spoiler, but anyways, this kind of sends their mom into an emotional spiral because she basically sends Maya and Kai to live with their aunt, or their dad's sister, in the capital of light and says YOLO and ditches. From here, Kai learns to channel naturally after, but the doctor said that because Maya let out such a big burst of energy, especially at such a young age when her shard wasn't fully developed yet, her shard became dormant on its own, so she has a very, very hard time using it. It's not impossible, but it takes a lot of effort. Anyways, that is the entire background done. Time for the actual plotline, and let's get into it because it's about to get really messy. So flash forward a couple years, Maya and Kai are flying to A12 for Nexus entrance exams and about to live with their mom for the first time in over a decade. In that time that we skipped, their mom moved back to A12, and Maya and Kai came to resent her because she ditched them after they already lost one parent, their dad. So tensions are already very high in the Hart family at the start of the story. Kai is the only one who really wants to attend Nexus. Maya doesn't really believe in herself because homegirl can't manipulate protocols at all, but she doesn't want to hold her twin back, so she just goes along with him anyway. And also, the reason Kai chose Nexus in the first place is because it's the only school that teaches both manipulations in one campus, and he wants to be close with Maya. So it's kind of like a all or nothing situation for them. At Nexus's entrance, we meet the rest of the group, who I'll try my best to make memorable so you know who I'm talking about and like point them out on the screen. So Rowan is the childhood best friend of Maya and Kai who convinced them to come to Nexus in the first place. He's the one with the blue hair at the top left, and he's known to cycle through girlfriends like their clothes and fails to realize that he only does this because his real crush doesn't like him back, or so he thinks. Spoilers, she does, or did, past tense. Rue is the academic and social weapon who eventually becomes Kai's girlfriend. She's the one posing with him in the picture to the right, and they are the only functioning relationship in this entire story. Also, they become somewhat friends with Maya, but they only grow close later on. Next up, we have Ace. Our favorite man makes a comeback. The important thing is that he remembers Maya, so imagine homeboy's surprise when he sees her alive and healthy after being consumed and killed all these years that he killed her. But Maya doesn't remember him, which is very interesting, so that's one of my favorite dynamics to write about, actually. Next up, we have Daphne, who is Maya's best friend. She has a lot of confidence issues, I'd say, but she doesn't really play a major role in the story until semester 2. But she's like relatively shy but easygoing, which contrasts Maya's stubborn side, so they kind of balance each other out, and she's the one to the top right, or top left again, who's like hiding behind this guy. And the guy is Ash. He's also Daphne's best friend in a we're the same person but different genders sort of thing. He comes from a super rich family and is going to inherit the business one day, so he's super posh and whatnot, but he doesn't actually realize it, which also makes him really funny to write. Wow, all that and we haven't even gotten to the second chapter. So, Nexus entrance exams happen. I won't bore you too much with the details, but Ash, Kai, Daphne, and Rue are all light manipulators, while Rowan, Ace, and Maya are shadow manipulators. That trio is going to be very chaotic to write. I'm so excited. But The friend group kind of forms through mutual connections, and Maya is struggling a lot with manipulating shadows when she somehow passed the exam, and in a turn of events, she looks to Ace for help since he's a prodigy. So every night they sneak out to practice in the woods near Nexus, and eventually she does begin to gain more confidence since most of her dormant shard was caused by her fear of hurting people, so it's more of an emotional block than a physical block. However, this causes Rowan to get jealous because he already hates Ace since they got off on the wrong foot, and Maya is one of his closest friends, so he gets a little too overprotective, which ends up in an argument where Maya confesses she likes Rowan, but kept on getting hurt when he picked other girls over her, and Rowan realizes he actually liked Maya this whole time. What a surprise, ladies and gentlemen! But of course, I need to sprinkle in a tad bit of miscommunication, so they end up ignoring each other for a while. Flash forward to the next important plot point, which is the Nexus Ball. This celebrates the end of the first semester, and because Nexus is so bougie, everyone is expected to have a date. Yeah, let's all force a group of unstable teenagers to get together. What's the worst that can happen? Anyways, this is just an excuse for me to write a ballroom scene because I love reading them, but anyways, Kai and Rue go together because by this time they're dating. Rowan goes with an NPC, Daph and Ash go as friends, and that leaves Ace and Maya to pair up and go as friends in the friend group. So at the end of the ball, Rowan and Maya get into another huge argument, seeing as they both have very explosive personalities, but this time it ends up with them actually agreeing to date and see how it goes. Enter semester 2. Grab your popcorn, everyone, and say goodbye to any personal attachments that you have to these characters. It's for your own good, I promise. At the beginning of the semester, it's released to the public that there has been a string of cases that seem to be the work of one person, who we dub the Fallen Angel. It was hidden because they thought releasing it would cause public panic, which it did, but now people are more safe and more sure not to go out alone, which kind of counterbalances that. The only thing connecting these cases are that all the victims are shadow manipulators and their shards have been cleanly sliced in half, and there are 2 wings carved onto their backs. All of this indicates that the murders have been carefully planned out, but we don't know why the victims have wings of all things carved or why their shards are sliced in half. Unusually, however, these victims aren't actually dead. They're in a coma-induced state since their shard wasn't cracked enough to kill, but more so to just cause them to be put on life support indefinitely. Which brings us to the question of what is the serial killer's, or if we can even call them a killer, motive, because why would they maim to ensure comatose but not death? This causes a lot of unrest in Illumina in general because shadow manipulators are seething since they believe light manipulators are the ones behind these acts of hate, but light manipulators are saying that there's no proof and they can't jump to conclusions, so tensions are very, very high. Also, remember what I said about the beginning 22 years ago when the air ran away and all 3 nations started going at each other's throats? Yep, just wanted to remind you of that in case you forgot. So, semester 2, a lot of it is spoiler territory that I can't venture into too much, but if you watch some of the shorts that I've done, I think you can piece together some of this stuff. Anyways, for a quick synopsis, relationship problems are back and better than ever. Rowan is still jealous of Ace because he thinks Maya is spending too much time with him, understandably so, but it gets to a point where they both break up mutually because they realize that neither of them can really handle a relationship right now and they don't want to ruin their decades of friendships that they already have because they were childhood best friends. However, this does kind of break their trust in one another because Rowan hates that he can't trust Ace around Maya and Maya hates that she can't trust Rowan to trust her. Maya and Kai are both experiencing terrible headaches and migraines for some reason, and they keep having dreams of memories that they don't remember, so Maya eventually does have hazy memories of someone from her childhood, while Kai just has this repetitive scene of a bloody kitchen and a threatening note carved into his mind. So eventually Nexus does go into lockdown, and they force all the students to dorm on its campus for their own safety, and they set up a bunch of regulations to ensure that no one is actually harmed, but specifically shadow manipulators since they seem to be the only victim, so they get a higher safety priority. Maya and Kai aren't the only ones who are sick though. There's another certain someone who keeps on coughing up blood but refuses to get healed for an unknown reason. Maya, being the sweetheart that she is, refuses to let them just sit there and practically die, so she sneaks out one day after curfew to go to a healing center for proper medication, since there's only health elixirs that she can steal from Rue to keep this person stable. On the way back, however, she can sense something, or someone, stalking her from the shadows and watching her every move. Homegirl puts her 2 brain cells to use here for a moment and decides she ought to run. Obviously doesn't end well, and they just catch up to her in an instant, and Homegirl is about to become home dead because the fallen angel has finally caught up to her. On that same night, the royals of Etoile Palace are found brutally murdered in their bedrooms. Not just the royals, but every servant and guard in that palace, as well as the most prized possession of the family being stolen. After that, Maya wakes up to find Kai and her mom beside her bed. After some family bonding throughout the whole story, they finally get to the point where they can trust their mom again. Big mistake number 1. All of a sudden, their mom starts coughing up blood and dying. Very sad main character moment, but the entire time she's just saying sorry and that it'll all make sense one day. Hello? Girly pop, explain please? At the end, all we get is that Maya and Kai are suddenly being sent down memory lane with all their stolen memories finally returned. And yeah, Dun dun dun. I know you're probably about to jump through the screen and attack me for ending it there, but that's all I can reveal about the universe because everything from here on out contains major spoilers that I haven't mentioned in any of my shorts and animatics before. Who murdered the royals? Who is the fallen angel? Who is the traitor behind this whole operation? Why did Maya and Kai's mom hide their own memories from them, and what else is she hiding? Comment down below your theories because I absolutely love hearing about them. As always, thank you guys so much for watching till the end. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye! Hey, you, yeah. This is only for the people who stayed until the end, so keep it on the down low, okay? Just wanted to mention a quick little folktale from Illumina. Nothing important, of course. Long ago, before stars blinked and mountains stood, there was only an endless sea of nothingness and the goddess who wandered alone in the void. Her body came from the stars, her hair cascading down from the sun, and her voice from the moon. She grew weary of the emptiness, singing into the dark as her emotions took control of her, and from her very lips fell a spark into the endless sea which she named Illumina. She shaped the land with grace, carving it into a beautiful place of laughter and dreams. Too beautiful, in fact. Her joy as she stared at the beautiful creation was so overwhelming it masked the loneliness still swirling beneath her, and when these two met, they fractured her divine soul, splitting her into three beings, Celeste, Enid, and Iris. It is said that Enid grabbed at the sun, scattering its light across the sky and giving humanity the gift of its illumination. His other half, Iris, gathered the moon into her arms and wrapped this world in a silvery veil, granting humanity the gift of shadow. And at only dusk and dawn, when the sun has not yet risen and the moon has not yet faded, you may catch a glimpse of the third, the goddess who is once whole. Okay, that's it for real now. Bye bye!